Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Shitshow. I am so excited because today I get to read the intro of the first ever Spiritual Shitshow guest, my dear, dear friend, Kris Schooler. And she is the co-founder of Wild Souls Yoga. She is also a soul coach, meditation coach, yoga instructor, Reiki master, intuitive healer, published author, and a wellness consultant. Her books can be found on Amazon. One is called Consciously Creating, and the other one is on leadership called How to Lead a Thriving Workplace. I have been blessed to be on the receiving end of her healership. I go to her quite often for energy work, amplification, and just, can you please tap into this because this is what I'm feeling and I need to know what the heck is going on. She is brilliant. And this podcast came about because a friend who listens to the podcast sent a voice memo and was like, I want to hear your friends. I want to hear like what you guys talk about. I want to hear more about what it's like what do you guys see when you're healing? Like, what do you guys see in these sessions? And so that's what we talk about today and so much more. Also, it really is all about holding space to have authentic conversations with others. And can we continue to find inspiration with one another, Have that deep conversation with a soul sister. Talk about what you're going through, how things are for you. I loved learning a lot of Kris's backstory today, which she's a friend and she was telling me things that I did not know. I loved it. I also felt so much of an energetic transmission from her. My nervous system just settled by listening to her. I had great understanding, like a deeper understanding of the energetic body. So I won't talk anymore. Thank you for being here and I hope you enjoy this listen and yeah, love. Yay! All right, we're doing it. You are officially my first guest-ish. I started the podcast in 2018, but I never put out a single thing.
What?
Yeah, not a thing. And I would have people come over, I'd go to their house and we would record, but I never put out anything.
Okay. Well, hopefully this makes the cut.
It is. It's going to.
Yeah. Okay.
Divine timing. So I'll let you introduce yourself in a second. But really what I wanted to do is I have a friend who listens to the podcast and she's like, I'm just so fascinated about this work and what you do. And I want you to interview other people who do the same work as you do because I'm just so interested. And I was like, okay, we're going to do it. So then I called.
I mean, that's a cool request. And I love that.
Yeah. And also I just love being able to, like, in the space that I'm in now, which I want to talk about later, is like the journey of awakening and becoming, and especially like dropping into your gifts. And that kind of roller coaster that nobody really talks about. And then to see where I am now, kind of have done this situation. Now I'm like, I'm a baby. I have gifts, but I don't have gifts. I'm always learning. And I feel like more and more, if I am able to gain inspiration through life or through conversations with people that are in my field and not just listening to a podcast of somebody that I probably will have to spend $500 to even listen to them talk somewhere. Like, I just don't think it's necessary. I feel like we are all in our gifts and we are all in our stories and we all have this innate want and desire to support. I think it's ingrained in us to help and support other people. So I love having conversations with other women, especially, and then today, other healers. So that's kind of the intention around this.
Okay. And question for you, do you notice that I would say it's at least 50% of my Reiki energy healing clients that are what you were talking about, like coming into alignment with their gifts and their purpose, like it's really coming online. Do you have that same experience? Okay.
100%. 100%. And that's what I want to, okay, but do you want to say who you are first?
Sure. My name is Kris Schooler, and I am a co-owner of Wild Souls Yoga. We've been doing retreats for women, and events, workshops, women's circles, moon circles for, I think, like 12 years is how long we've been doing that work. So I've been teaching yoga for a little bit longer than that. So I am also a yoga instructor, meditation instructor, and very passionate about all things healing, wellness, alignment, soul alignment. That's a big part of the work I do. I also do soul coaching. So working with people to find guidance from spirit for their highest alignment with their soul and their path and their journey. And I think that's it.
And you have 2 books.
And I have 2 books. Consciously Creating. It's a workbook on how to align with your, yeah, there it is. I got one on my bookshelf right here too. And then my second book is How to Lead a Thriving Workplace. That comes from our Wild Souls yoga work with corporations and wellness consulting with corporations. Yeah.
I think you're a badass, really. And you have such an amazing way of holding space for people.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I feel the same about you. You're my total girl crush in this spirit work realm.
Same. It's the flame. So let me ask you first, because I think this is something that comes up and can be scary for people who are starting. I feel like awakening feels like so like this, but really it's another way to kind of spin it is it's actually just coming back to your truest, these most authentic parts of who you are and allowing those parts of yourself to be held and grounded and integrated. And then from that comes clarity and then like again, this desire to share or to help or to be present for other people. You know what I'm saying? But I think in my own experience, and I'm interested to hear what your experience was, something needed to crumble big time in order for me to get into an alignment. You know what I'm saying? And it's not to say that the journey up into that point, that was also part of my becoming, you know what I'm saying? But in order for it all to really be like, you know, the universe shaking me like, this is who you are, and this is what we want you to experience and do and live and remember, all of that needed to crumble. And I think sometimes we might get scared when our strength is coming on, or to lean into like, you know, like I've actually always, like, this is not me, but I have friends who are like, I've always kind of seen people, or, you know, my grandmother was a medium, or things like that. And so I'm like, well, you probably have that too. And then you can see that fear coming in of like, oh, no, I don't want that. I don't want that gift. I don't want that. Because when we lean into it, it feels like we're also leaning into a higher calling of ourselves and in our lives. And that can be scary, because I think then we also know that we can't carry it all with us. So if we're going to say yes to a bigger yes and a deeper calling, we have to be willing to let things go. And I think that's the sticky part of stepping into a higher path for ourselves and our spiritual gifts and spirituality and whatever else anybody wants to call it. But that's my story. Did you get into your gifts that way?
I got into my gifts, and I would not recommend this path for anyone. And I joke that I am pretty hard-headed and stubborn. So I think that the universe had to like bring like the big guns in to wake me up. But I came into it through like I almost died. Like I had a pretty crazy long road with my health and with really bad relationships and with abuse, and I was on 18 prescriptions. So there was, you know, a lot of heavy drugs that were involved, and like, it was just not it was not fun, but it was a crumbling for me. And I think you channeled this for me one time. You said that we all have like this, like we can make whatever choice we want, right? We have free will. We can make whatever choice we want, but we have a golden path. And that the more that we are in alignment with that path, the more like we could feel that resonance about like, oh, this is it. Like, this is what feels right for me. And the more we veer from that path, the more it's like, oh, this doesn't feel quite right. And the more I move towards that path, like it starts to feel better. And I don't know, like because I've thought about like, did I have gifts when I was younger? Probably, but I don't like, I was so disconnected. I was so in my ego. I was such a person who was like, I was so asleep, so very asleep. And I think that I needed like a drastic series of events to like bring me back to my golden path and my alignment, honestly.
Yeah, same. And that's why I think it's like, if you have the choice to kind of trust and know that you're being guided in a higher way, that feels way easier than the gripping of it. Because if I was gripping, I would have just, it's fine. It's fine. My life's not that bad. I'll make it work. I would just kind of like build around the chaos to make it work instead of just removing the chaos altogether and not having it kind of be a part of my I'm kind of picturing it like in a neighborhood where that one person doesn't want to sell their house. And so everything just builds around it. And then that looks really out of place. That poor person who sold their house. I would have done that. I would have just kept the house right there because I didn't want to demolish it. And I didn't know what that looked like. And so I would have just in my life just continued to build around it as best as I could. But I wouldn't have been, I would have still been cheating myself from happiness or truth and freedom. You know what I'm saying? So literally the day that my life switched, I was at my business and I literally heard enough. I was at the back and I was playing music and I just heard enough. And then it was like something took over my body and it was just like,
Wow.
that was the end. And then I had to start what I've titled my spiritual shit show, which has now lasted, 9 years of this really hard, because and this is why I like to have conversations, because when you're being stripped of everything, you're being stripped of your story, you're being stripped of your identity, of this title that you've had, like I was once Mrs., married, or I was once, whatever it is, you get stripped of it. And then it's like you're left in the world naked and really confused and really hard. But it needed to happen that way, or I would have never chose it for myself.
Yeah, I completely understand that experience. Like I actually going back, so I said I didn't know if I was connected to my gifts. I actually was, because as you were talking, I remembered that I used to hear things all the time. I used to see things all the time before I really stepped into my gifts when I was married. And I used to think I was literally crazy. Like I thought something was wrong with me. So that's that. But okay, so I used to, this is an embarrassing story, but I used to go in my closet and pray. And I was in a lot of pain, a lot of physical pain at the time. And I mentioned my 18 prescriptions, and I had a bottle of Soma, which are narcotic muscle relaxers. It was a giant bottle, and I hid it in my closet because I hated taking prescriptions. I hated the way that I was. I felt so broken and vulnerable, and just like I felt like shit up in every way possible. I would go in my closet and pray about how bad I felt. And I remember like visualizing that bottle on the shelf, and like I could just take a handful. I remember that moment. And then I saw like Jesus comes to me a lot. I know that sounds strange, but Jesus. Yes, since I was a kid, and I never grew up in the church, but Jesus has appeared to me. Like, I've lost count because it's so frequent. But as a kid, a teenager, and then during this really hard phase of my life, and in my closet, like Jesus appeared to me. And my daughter was in elementary school at the time, and she's in college now, so that was a while ago. And I saw in my, this was I think one of my first visions, if you will. And I saw if I didn't change something, I was not going to see her graduate high school. I would not be alive. So that was it was like do or die for me, literally.
And so then what was your big transition? Because of how you were to where you are now? How did you get there and what did that look like?
Yeah, it was actually yoga. Yoga was the gateway drug to spirituality for me. Before this horrible thing with my health that lasted for years and all of the chronic pain and just I wasn't myself. Like I just felt like a shell of myself in every way possible. And before that, I was a runner. I was a cheerleader. I was a basketball player. Like I was very athletic. And then like when after school, like after I graduated high school, like I still like I worked out all the time. I loved to run on the treadmill at lunch, on my lunch break. Like I just loved to be active. And I did like a hip hop dance class back then. And I got to the point like I couldn't move. Like I couldn't like anything I did physically, like I would be in bed for 3 days. I had to quit my job. I went on short-term disability and then I just quit. I would get like these horrible migraines and black out. Like I wrecked my car like twice driving down I-25, which is just horrible. And I would go to the doctor and like sit and cry. Like I can't even go to the gym. I can't even go to a Zumba class. I can't do anything. And my doctor was like, why don't you try yoga? And I went and I hated it. I hated how slow it was. I think I hated the way it made me like slow down and have like silence with myself. I'd never experienced that before. But I went to a couple classes because it was the only thing I could do that didn't hurt. I wasn't just broken for days after class. And I remember the studio's not around anymore, but there was a studio in the town that I lived in. It was like in a strip mall. And one day after class, I walked out from class and it was kind of cloudy. I think it was early fall. And I looked up at the sky and I was like, something is different. And I felt like for the first time in my entire life, I felt like my mind was clear. And that was like such an odd feeling to me. And so I just kept going. And I think I went for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, okay, if I don't just become obsessed with this, it's probably not going to have the same impact. So I signed up for a 6-month intensive yoga teacher training, like a couple weeks in, like to my first few yoga classes. And it just took me down this path of, because yoga means to yoke, to unite, to connect with our soul. That's what it means. And so, yes, there's a physical component to it. And yes, we have like exercise classes called yoga, but yoga as a practice is really like, there's all of this wisdom and knowledge and guidance to how we connect deeper into who we are at a soul level. And that was just life-changing for me. So I've been studying it ever since, like hardcore, all in, anything and everything I can learn about yoga. I have.
I feel that as you're talking, I feel like my whole nervous system just settled down.
And it's saved, like I know that it saved my life. And so on my birthday, every year I do something. So I go see some sort of healer or do some like shaman, like I go see someone that I've never seen before as like a birthday present to myself. And 2 years in a row, I went to 2 different people. They didn't know each other. They didn't know me. And they both told me, you were not supposed to survive. I was not supposed to be here.
Wow.
So I know that yoga saved my life. It just did.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you for the space to share that.
Yeah, we're friends and I'm learning so much about you. So so you started yoga and then how did you begin to slowly integrate off of your pills?
Oh, I did like this. I don't recommend this, but this is what I did is I
thought you were gonna be like, I haven't, I still take them all.
No. I wrote everything out and I did research on what they were, how they impacted the body, like from a physiological level. And I had like 3 categories of like, okay, these pills I can just stop cold turkey. These I can probably wean myself off of in a short period of time. And these I need to wean myself off of in like a 6-month period. And that's what I did. And I started seeing a lot of holistic, various practitioners. And I, to this day, like have a very large network of holistic practitioners that I use. Like I rarely go to the doctor, the conventional doctor.
Yeah. Talk to me about, because I'm so interested, because I think sometimes when when we're having our own personal ahas, like when you said, I left the yoga studio and I just like something was different and I felt it.
talk to me a little bit about that, because I feel like we do that, but then at the same time, it's like, does anybody else feel like this ever? Is this me? Am I crazy? Like, then the mind starts to kick in and want to organize it. So from that moment when you were like, whoa, I really am feeling a shift and something's different. What was that kind of transition then from that moment on? Did it deepen? Did you?
It did. And okay, so in yoga, there is and I think it's more than just yoga. I think there's a lot of Eastern traditions that use this system, but it's called the koshas. And the kosha means sheath in Sanskrit. And there are 5 different layers of our being. So think of like Russian nesting dolls, like we have layers. And so the most dense aspect of our being is our physical body. And then the second layer is our breath body. So the breath is separate from the density of the bones and muscles. And then the third layer is the ego mind. So like, I think of it like sitting right here, the ego mind that likes to narrate every experience we have and is constantly chattering and whatever. And then the fourth layer is like, it's like, I see it as like here, it's the higher mind. And then the fifth layer is the bliss body. So I think of that as, that's when we are no longer connected to like our personality, our bodies, our stories. We're just connected to everything that is. And so I think for me, yoga and that like experience for me was like a lifting me up out of the ego so I could see it for what it was. Like, ego's not a bad thing, and that the voice of the ego is not a bad thing. But when we can start to see the different layers and the space between the layers, then we can recognize all of it for what it is. And it just, there's some spaciousness there and I think that is what made me able to be able to connect to spirit the way I do today, and the work that I do today is when I was so connected to the ego, and like thinking that's who I was, there was no way I could have ever gotten there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that word spaciousness, like just listening to you talk, literally my body's feeling like butter. As I'm hearing like these key points of, like of the space, that's kind of needed. And yeah, and the stillness to remember who you are and what you're doing, and to see it from, like you said, like a higher perspective, a higher version of yourself. I also loved hearing, the 5 different layers that we have and where they're at. Because I think hearing that also reminds me that we can get hooked into an aspect of self, and we're trying to find our wholeness, but we're trying to find our wholeness just from one layer. And when we can begin to see these other layers and these components that make us who we are, then it's easier to drop into an awareness of that we are already whole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I always think of the Dave Matthews song, "The Space Between," because that's where I don't know how to explain it, but that's where the magic is. The second that I can like find the space between the layers and the space between the thoughts and the space between it's just like, that's where I just feel so connected.
Yeah, I feel that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I need to be reminded of it. Okay. I also love that at a young age, I love that at first you're like, I don't think I had gifts. And then you're like, but actually when I was like, I've always seen Jesus. It's like, so this realization too of when we shut down, or I don't know, it's kind of like our own best kept secret, maybe sometimes, is how we like to hold it, actually. Because I think when we do have those types of situations, I'm wondering, and I'm just babbling, I'm wondering if it's not because we're afraid of it, but because there's a deeper part of us that knows how truthful and sacred it is, that we actually go and we protect it. So it's not seen, because we're actually in protecting of that. And now part of this awakening process is allowing that to be at the center of who we are, so it that the truth of it all can be seen instead of us needing to protect it from the world or protect it from other people's thoughts or protect it from our own ego or any of that. I'm just
Yeah, and I grew up in a household where I was not supported in most ways. And so I think like I had a 15-year-old client on my table 2 days ago, and her mother and her grandmother were in the room, and like they work with me too, and like to see, because she's very gifted, she's very sensitive spiritually, she sees things, she hears things, and it was so like heart opening for me to see her, because the grandmother looked like this trailblazer. Like I saw like this wall behind her of like what it looked like was, okay, so the light, like her path and everything that was before her from an ancestral lineage perspective was like kind of ick. And then grandmother was born, and like she had this energy of like, I'm not allowing that anymore. And there was like this wall behind her of like, I'm going to protect everything for all the generations moving forward so that they can step into their gifts. Like that's what it felt like to me. And I didn't have that. And so I also think that when we don't have someone to help us foster our gifts, then it really gets shut down, because the world around, like, you go to school and that's not acceptable. And like the world at large, it's not really, in my childhood, it wasn't acceptable to like see things and hear things and all of, And so I think that being lucky enough, but I also know it's a part of my path. Like everything that was a part of my path, every part of it was intentional, and that's okay. It was beautiful and it was perfect for me. So I don't know. I'm rambling.
okay. I get it. I'm following. And that's the whole point of this, is just having a
Yeah.
I'm hearing so much, and I'm also receiving like your wisdom. So a lot of it is really integrating for me right now, and kind of it feels like other channels are opening. And what I want to ask now is, how do you feel about supporting other people on their path and taking ownership of it? Because I have a very sweet friend, and I was her dance teacher. And so she knew me as just Miss Julie forever. And then she's the one who took me to teach in Beijing with her for the first time. And then she's old enough now. So now now we're friends. So we've been friends longer than I was ever her teacher. But I think because of her first imprint of me, I am still, teacher, and I'm still dancing and stuff. And she was going through a hard time. And I said, do you want me? I mean, I can help and do my thing. And they're really into the energetics. They teach cranial work. They teach energy work. They teach polarity therapy. So this is her world. And she was like, I'll take anything, like anything. So I remember the first time having to show up for somebody in my gifts, and how it's easier for me to do it for a stranger because I don't know. But to do it with somebody who I'm close with and I love and adore, and also put myself out there in that way, I was really nervous and scared about it. And then I was like, I just have to do it. So I did it. And then she called me. I just did a voice memo, and like light language was coming in, and I was singing, and like visions. And like I just had to allow myself to just be in that space. And then when I pressed send, I was like, oh God, like, what is she going to think of me? And what is she going to think about all of this? And I feel like I'm coming out to her. Is like, this is what I actually really kind of do. And then she called back, and she was like, she was like, I felt my whole body changing, like listening to you sing. And like, it just felt like, and I just started crying, but she was like, I don't have any words except for thank you. And then now, as we're still in each other's lives, she'll call and she'll be like, I don't know how you tapped into all of this wisdom by yourself. Like, you didn't have mentors. So that's why I'm tagging, because you said I didn't have a support system. Like, I didn't have mentors. I didn't have a teacher. I wasn't raised in this, but I kind of feel like just life itself and the hardships of life is kind of what began to like unroot these truths and stuff. But do you think, what are your thoughts around that when people are stepping into their gifts, and how to hold an acceptance of maybe a painful past or painful situations, and on the other side of that is also so much divine support that is helping to awaken you into your gifts. And when you awaken into those gifts, you might experience a moment where you're like, people are going to think I am crazy and I have lost my mind. And you still just have to keep stepping into it and trusting it.
Well, so yes, to answer, okay, let me start with, you have been so pivotal for me and really owning my gifts. And I just thank you for that. And to answer your question, I literally live to help people step into their gifts. Like, it is the one thing that I feel on a very regular basis. And I think I have felt this my entire life, but didn't know what it meant. I feel this urgency at a soul level of like, it is time to wake up. It is time to step into your light. It is time to be who you came here to be. Like, I feel that, like, personally. And when I work with people, not for every single client, but the ones that are like, that know, like, because when I work with clients, there's usually somebody who comes to me because they just want some light energy work. And then there's people that come to me because they're like, I know there's more, but I don't know what that means. I know I have gifts, but I don't know what that means. And so those people, like, there's always a sense of urgency from spirit of like, now, like, I've heard it in sessions before from spirit, like, now is the time, like, now is the time. Like, and it's like, I see like a snap, like, now is the time to step into your gifts. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that answers your question, but like, it is, I think it's a huge part of my purpose is because I've always been able to, even before I did this work, and it got me in trouble because I always saw people for their highest self instead of who they were as a human. And that got me in a lot of bad relationships. And I would be so confused because I'm like, but that's not, they would show up as they're human in lower vibrational states. And I'd be like, but that's not who you are. Like, it was very confusing for me because I didn't know what that meant. But now I do. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes. The integration of acceptance of what is. But how is that for you too? When you're guiding people into their gifts, what are you seeing when you're helping people to awaken? Like, not that there's like a list of steps, but like, I know for myself, when I first was awakening to it all and practicing, one thing I had to move through was that fear of, one, what my family's going to think of me and my close friends. And two, this like, am I crazy? Like, am I really seeing these things? Are angels really coming to visit me? Like nobody can know this. They're going to think I'm just wild and out there. And I don't want to be wild and out there. I just want to be me. So I had to move through that. And then as more and more gifts started to come on, then I felt like this need that any information that I would get, I would have to tell them, like, and how silly, like, I know this is going to sound weird, but your dog just talked to me and your dog wants his bed, like, and it was all truthful because I'd be like, yeah, I just got rid of the dog bed today. And you knew that. And I'm like, like, how did you know that? I'm like, literally, your dog just told me he wants his bed back and he just showed me, like, that kind of stuff sounds weird and wild. And it's weird to go up to somebody and be like, your dog just told me that, or your dog is saying that they're unhappy. Like, that's kind of stuff when you start happy, you're like, what's happening? But then I felt like I needed to tell everybody. And so this process also of is the more this sense just comes online, because I think we all have it. We all are in our own unique gifts, and leaning into it and deepening into it, it just takes practice and it takes support and it takes actually normalizing it in these conversations too. But then I am learning, because I feel like I'm still not always good at it. I began to realize how much of the gift was also began to be cleverly manipulated by ego of like, look, I have healing powers. Look, I can tell you, look, I can do you want me to help you? Like, I began to do that. And now it's more of a softening of, that's not my responsibility all the time. And when people come to me, then I can open, but I've also learned how to turn that switch off. But I see it as I am also helping other people into their gifts, that there's that small space when you're kind of navigating into this new form that you don't know what to do with it. And it is such a service to other people, but you have to be aware of this other part that's going to want to be like, look, I can heal you. Look, I can tell you. Look, your dog's talking to me. Look, oh, I can see your aura. I can see, like you just want to start doing all of those things. And then eventually it kind of integrates down into a grounded wisdom of service for other people. Did you do that ever?
I did. And it actually started in yoga with me, because yoga is an energetic healing practice. And so I went through that stage of like, I learned because yoga can be triggering, like the things, because when I teach a yoga class, I am pretty much channeling what comes through. I'm channeling, like, I don't know how to explain it, but when I teach a class, like, I'm just like open and like things come through and I say them, and it's a powerful way for me to teach, but I'm always like, however this lands for people is none of my business. But I didn't know that I was doing that. A shaman told me that. I went to a shaman who didn't know that I taught yoga. And then she's like, do you teach yoga? And I was like, yes. And she's like, oh, you have these like energy tentacles that come out and you can read people's energies, but you don't know you're doing it, but you're teaching to the energy you're feeling. And like, of course I was like, oh, that's cool. And then, you get like the big head about it. But like over time, I just learned like, say what I am channeling, what's supposed to be said, because I only ask to receive things that I'm supposed to say, and then I have to let it lie. And I have also learned to only work with people who want to work with me. Like I don't ever force it. Like I don't go up to people in the like, because I try to turn it off when I'm not working, but I get insights and visions and messages. And unless someone asks me to do it for them, I just don't do it anymore.
So what do you do with it? Because I have some friends too who have a lot of stuff and they're in like, I see things or I'm hearing things all the time. How do you kind of move it so it's not becoming overwhelming? You know what I'm saying? So you can still be human.
That's why I worked with you. Why I did Reiki training with you is because I didn't know, I felt so overwhelmed all the time with energy, with hearing things, seeing things. Going out in public became overwhelming. Going to a concert was not an option. Airports were too much. And I had no intention of actually ever doing any sort of energy healing work. When I came to see you for training, I wanted to learn how to turn it down and off. And I don't know specifically what we did together, but working with you gave me more control over all of it. So now I tend to use like a radio dial. So if I'm feeling a lot of energy coming in that I don't want, I just like imagine turning it down. So I just feel way more in control.
Same. I love that. I love that, the dial down. Mm-hmm. I also love, eventually I got to just turn it on like a light switch, like on, off. Cause there for a while, I couldn't have a conversation with somebody without it just felt like, and like all this information's coming in and then I'm not listening to them anymore. Cause I'm like, whoa, like I'm actually hearing, I'm like all the things. So now I've learned how to, and I think I'm still practicing of turning it off and just learning how to just be actually with that person without all of these other psychic things happening. And, and also opening up the gap a little bit so I can still speak from more of a channeled truth, but it's not like the whole shebang of like, let's do a full channeled session for you right here at the coffee shop, because that'd be inappropriate. But we're also talking. And so I want my words to be meaningful. So in conversations, I've learned how to kind of turn it down or off, but also kind of open the channel a little, like just a little. So that way whatever I'm saying or sharing, that can still be in the realm of like a channeled supportive energy.
Yeah.
And then I guess I want to ask you too, can you feel the difference? Because I can feel the difference in my body.
Yeah.
Feel it. It's true.
Well, I just think it's a difference between our human that comes with our personality, our stories, our past, our baggage, all of that. Like, and there's a bias there just naturally, right? And so there's that version of me, and then there's the very like connected version of me. And I like the connected version better, to be honest with you. But of course there are lots of moments in my life where I'm going to be just the very human version of myself. But yes, I could definitely feel the difference.
I feel that because I feel like a lot of us need to hear exactly what you said, that there's this connected version of myself and then there's this human version of myself. And they both show up.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I be more of that connected version of myself a little bit more and know that there's this other version of myself that also does exist? Great too. Yeah. I feel like just talking to you too, which again, we're talking about, energy and psychic stuff and seeing Jesus and things. So I don't want to say it sounds weird to say this, but I am feeling just the power of like the energetic transmission just from listening to you talk. And so I hope that anybody who listens to this is also feeling that shift as well. The first time that I went to Beijing, I think it was in 2016, and we went to the temple. And that's a lie, I've been to a temple before. But this is my first time at this temple. And and it was by myself. I think the other temples I went to was with my family and stuff. And so this is the first time, a solo trip overseas by myself, and then going to the temple by myself. And let me say by myself one more time, by myself. And anyway, I walked in by myself and I felt like my whole body like shifting. Like I didn't know what was happening. And I'm sure I wasn't moving. I'm sure I was just standing there. But at the same time, I felt like every cell in my being was just like reorganizing itself. And I think we have many of those times in our lives too. And we just have, like when you walked out of the yoga studio, it's like something's different, something has changed. And so I just want to be able to say that and name that, because I think a lot of us do have these experiences, but again, we don't know if we can talk about it or if we can trust it or believe it. And then there's a question of like, what is happening? And I think in those moments of what is happening, I think we are literally, our entire body is leveling up into higher truths and clarity. And then also at the same time, deepening into this more aligned version of ourselves.
And I think the goal is to trust it, because I think that we can feel it and then disregard it and then just go back to what was, or the way we were showing up, or the old programming or whatever, instead of allowing the new to come through.
The trust part is what has taken a lot of time for me. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't grow up, I have not felt really connected to a family of origin. So I think for me, that was a gift. It was hard. I'm not going to diminish that at all, but it was a gift in that I never felt, because I know a lot of people that I work with feel this pressure of, well, how do I step forward into this when I have my family pulling me into this? And how do I navigate that? And so I don't know, because I've never, like, it was super easy for me to always just step forward, trust the whatever's shifting. I have been able to do that. I think in my marriage, I was married for 13 years. That was tough. And I remember having conversations. I had a crystal dealer that I would have coffee with when I would go buy my crystals. And I remember talking to her like early on in my yoga journey, because I did feel like the yoga, I will say this, do not ever take a yoga teacher training unless you are ready for your life to completely change. That is the crumbling. And in my teacher journey, I remember having coffee with this crystal dealer at Starbucks, and I told her, I was like, I feel like if I keep going down this path, I'm going to end up divorced. And this was early on. Like, this was probably year 4 or 5 of my marriage. And she said this to me. She said, here's what happens. So as you do your work, you're going to start to vibrate a little bit higher. if you guys are in a resonance, he will come up with you. It might not be at the same level, but he'll come up with you. If he chooses not to, it's going to kind of start doing this, but you have to honor your path. That's what she told me. And I will never forget that as long as I live. I feel like that was such a gift of a message of like, we don't have to, that's the wrong word, but the fun is when we follow it. It's fun. It's scary. It's fun.
I feel that it's fun too.
I do too. I'm like, let's go. Where are we going?
Kris, honestly though, I wish I would have had whatever conversation we're having now. I wish I would have been able to hear, like my 36-year-old self would have been able to hear this, because, and I think this is why I'm so passionate about talking now, because it's really what I needed, because I felt so alone in that journey, and I had to navigate it really by myself. And if somebody were like, this is going to be fun. Like, who are you going to be in 10 years? It's going to be fucking amazing. You wouldn't have chosen this. We chose it for you because this is what you want though. Like, you want freedom and you want to like expand and you want to travel and you want all of this. If you just keep doing this, you're going to wake up and be like, what happened to my life? This is not at all what I wanted. Yeah. So I'm super grateful for you sharing your stories, because I feel like, I needed to hear it. And my 36-year-old self needed to hear it, because it's a crumbling, but it is fun. And it doesn't feel fun when you're in it though. But if you have more and more women who are like, oh yeah, I've got a divorce, or oh yeah, I quit my business, or oh yeah, like the loss of you losing these things. I have a really sweet friend, and I share with him, but then he's so powerful. He offered me an offering back, and he was talking about that he is processing what this feels like to go through micro deaths every day. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoa. And that's what it is. And I think allowing these parts, and it's just like a flower, like parts of the flower die and you trim it off, and you know that if you trim it, more life is coming. But it's really hard to see that for ourselves, because we want me. I have such a fear that I want to grip and hold it all. And I think a part of my process is still allowing more of whatever's coming to come. And then when it's bloomed, and the bloom is to be released, and it does that. So I'm in this practice of allowing life to be like this and to release the grip of it all.
Well, and death is our greatest fear. Death is our greatest fear as a human. And the fear of death lives in the ego. Okay. And the micro deaths are actually ego deaths. And so the more that we can really one of my favorite quotes is, the only way out is through. And so whenever I feel fearful, I remind myself of like, you just have to do it. You just have to go through. You just have to keep going. And that has served me very well.
When you're going through the through parts though, are there things that you definitely need?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Our practices, our rituals. We have to have those.
So what are your go-to rituals?
I need alone time. That's huge for me. And then alone time can be like time to create, time to meditate, time to like lay on the floor and do some yoga stretches. Like I just need like time outside of like the scheduled to-do lists and meetings and work and all the things that we do in life. Energetic practices. So I do a lot of in the morning, like setting the intention of how I want my energy to feel today, and doing the connection practices of connecting up and opening myself up. And at the end of the day, I do a lot of clearing and cleansing practices. I've actually been doing lately, I've been doing a lot of like body cleansing energetically of like the organs and the torso and like the uterus and the ovaries, like just imagining like light is like washing through my body before I go to sleep. I think that's huge. I think the way that we take care of our minds, bodies, and spirits is a ritual. So what we're eating, what we're drinking or not drinking, who we're spending our time with, how we're spending our time in general, what we're consuming from a media perspective. Like, are we watching the news and are we doom scrolling social media, or are we reading like good stuff and journaling? So I think all of that is just really foundational for me.
Do you notice, like, when I travel, especially if I'm traveling and teaching, my practices, I have to. And I'm always like, damn, Julie, why don't you do this every day? Like, approach every day. But like, if I'm traveling and like it is, I wake up, I work out, I meditate, I set my intentions for the day. I make sure that I carve enough time in between my teaching, my teaching break to go meditate and refresh and like, I am on it. And when I do that, my days are so much easier. They're smoother. They feel heightened. It feels more creative. And I don't do it as like diligently when I'm just living in my day-to-day life. I have my practices, but I don't do it like so diligently as I do when I am teaching abroad.
I'm jealous because I'm opposite. I find it worse when I travel. I'm gonna mute myself.
I think it's because when I am teaching, I know that I have to, like, it's a requirement. I have to show up in love. I have to show up in light. I have to show up well, and I cannot afford to get sick because if I'm traveling overseas, you know what I'm saying? I just can't afford any of that. So I really ramp up my practices. But because I'm ramping up, I'm also like so much better. Like I feel so like, why don't I do this every day? And honestly, I know that I rely on my clients' sessions because I have to sit down and I have to ground and I have to connect with spirit. Yeah. But I know we're running out of time, but I want to know, like, what was the evolution of your gifts though?
Oh gosh.
It's definitely been an evolution.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely in evolution. And I think the more, like, and the easiest, simplest way to say this, the more that I trust and let go of fear, the more that they open. And the more that I use them, the more that they open. And the more that I just own my gifts, the more that they open. So I think my previous versions of myself, I was scared of, who would think what about me? And well, I'm crazy. And the more that I was just like, I don't care what anyone thinks. I am here to do this work. So I have, like, the time is now. And the more that I just really work through the fear of it, and I think for me, I trust this, like, and trust is not even the right word. The spirit realm to me is more real than this bookshelf behind me. Like, it's more tangible and real. And so the more time that I spend in that connection and collaboration with spirit, the less I'm really affected by the matrix that we live in, is what I would say.
Yeah.
And I'm getting older, so I don't think I give a F anymore.
The brilliance of our age. I'm leaning.
Yes.
Okay, I have another question too. And I just forgot it. I was thinking about stepping into our power. Oh, I'm thinking of my friend. She was like, I want to hear other people talk. What do you see? This is a question from her. Like, when you were in your session, like, what is your process? What do you see? What comes through for you? That kind of stuff.
Okay. I love that question. For me, it depends on the client. No two sessions are the same for me. I start with, I think my hands, I don't know if this makes sense at all to you, but I think my hands are like, they read energy. And like, when I put my hands in someone's energy field, before I even touch their bodies, I'm already getting like a blueprint of their energy. And I'm getting a blueprint for the session and where the session is going to go. So sometimes the session is very much a release of trauma, physical, mental, emotional in the body. Sometimes it's purely that. Sometimes the sessions are geared more towards stepping into authenticity and gifts and like guidance in that way, but like moving energy in the body to support that. Sometimes sessions are, I had this, and okay, to explain what I'm seeing like, I close my eyes when I work a lot. And I can also see when I open my eyes, but I see like almost like a movie playing, and I can see scenarios and cities and people and guides and I mean anything and everything that you can think of I can see. Sometimes I actually hear words. So that's interesting because like one time I heard a French, I don't know French, and a French word came and I was like, what is that? And I had to go look it up. So that's always interesting when like things come in that I have no idea. Like I'm like, what? And I feel things in my body too. So I am always guided by my own body, which is interesting of like, okay, my left hip is talking, so I need to go to their left hip, that kind of thing. But do you want me to tell you about the weirdest session I've ever had that was like, just like so educational? And I actually think of, every session I do, I'm opening up to spirit and I'm like, guide me in whatever healing this person on my table needs. And it is like an education for me every single time. Like I learned so much. I see so much that I didn't know. And then after I get to go meditate on it and get to ask questions to my guides, but what was that about? And I had this gentleman client. He's a client of mine. The first session he ever had with me, and this session was so powerful for me. I think that I ruminated on it for 2 weeks after, like every waking moment. I was like, what was that? And I saw that the world we live in is not what it seems, that there's a battle going on of light and dark on a very high and deep level, that it has to do with our planet. It's off planet as well. There's so many players involved. And this gentleman, I remember seeing that he was like astral traveling in his sleep, and that he was always tired because he wasn't sleeping. And when he was astral traveling, he was like off fighting these like really crazy battles for the good of humanity. And it was mind blowing. And I remember like he wanted like, and I told him everything I was seeing, and he was like, yeah, like he felt seen. And he wanted me to talk to his wife, which I did, and it changed their marriage because he wasn't sleeping at night. She didn't understand, like he would say things all the time, like from this place of like intuition, but she thought he was full of shit. And so he wasn't, he was like really connected in his own way, but not in like the work that you and I do. Like he's doing his own different kind of spiritual work and bringing light to the planet right now in a healing way. And she, every time I see her, is so thankful to me because of how it shifted their dynamic and how she could understand him better. And so like, every session with every single person is so unique and different in what I see.
And what about the different types of gifts that you see in different people? Like you have somebody who is, fighting battles in the astral world while he sleeps, and then other gifts could be as simple as.
The big ones I'm seeing are people just, especially right now with the division on the planet and I see it as very intentionally created division. There are people right now who are just being asked to stay in their light and to not be pulled and to not be distorted, like not have their energy distorted. So to just stay in, like it looks like a lighthouse, almost like their body is a lighthouse, and just to stay in that frequency is healing to people around them. So that's a big one that I see. I've seen people who are supposed to be working with their like gifts in herbalism. So like, categorically, I see usually people who are more like earth-based healers, people who are more kind of like this man who was like kind of more. Oh, and in that session, I heard the term shadow worker, which I'd never heard that before, never, ever. So I did some research on that. So a shadow worker is someone who is a light worker, but they work in the shadows. So there's people who are like more human earth based, some people who are more like working in the shadows, and some people who are working really in the astral realms. And so I think that that comes through a lot, those different categories. And people doing healing, a big one I see is people doing healing within their own families. Because there's a lot, in my work, I'm seeing a lot of families like not doing well. A lot of that. And cutting ties big time. And because of the calculated division that's being manufactured.
Well, I have nothing to say to that except for I'm integrating all of that. I love, that people are doing the earthly healing or the astral healing or their family healing, that there's all these little columns that people are in. And to be able to utilize whatever is coming in for you, that whatever you're being drawn to, do that. Do that. And I love in sessions too, because I love receiving your work because it's very similar to me. And so we had a session a couple of weeks ago and I got done. I was like, is this what it feels like? Is this what oh my God, this is great. But it just feels so amplifying and truthful. And so when I'm also doing the work, I love being able to shine a light on, again, just what I said, like whatever your unique gifts are, it's that, and keep doing that, because again, the ego is going to want to come in and be like, oh, and I also like you can learn how to be in your lane almost. Like it's not my job to work in the shadows and the light and the earth and the whatever. And this is why also community in healership communities is so important, because I always see like Care Bears and everybody had their own little emblem that shines out. Like we need everybody who's doing whatever work they're doing and how they're doing it to come together and shine our hearts out. But it is not a requirement to know and to do all of it. So know what your gift is or gifts, and just continue to harness that. And trust it, because like what I'm saying for you now, you are an incredible healer. And I am also feeling like this really incredible energetic transmission, and we're just talking, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of times too, if there's somebody out there who's like, I don't have any gifts, or I want gifts, but I don't, you do. And it could just be your incredible, ability to be a loving mother, or how you listen. Like our gifts aren't always these psychic energetic gifts, but yet they are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I told every single person on my table, they have a gift, every single one.
Yeah.
And it's so simple, but I get that it's also not like, it's just on the other side of going through what I've gone through to get to the place where I can just sit in my gifts unapologetically. I get the apprehension, the fear, the resistance. I get all of that, but it is just as simple as, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to accept this. I'm going to be in this. I'm here for it. It's just that simple.
And I love how earlier you said, and it's fun.
It's fun. It's fun because I feel like I learn something every single day about energy, healing, the universe, why we're here, souls, humans, earth, all like I just learn, it's so, the more I'm open to it, the more I receive is really what I would say.
Same. And I know that if I just get a random person who I've not met before, but they've heard of me and they want to come, I'm not like, ooh, I go, there is something I am working on, and this person is going to be the vessel from which I need to hear whatever it is that I like. It's a dual situation that I am able to facilitate, messages and do energy work for you. And also the information that's coming in for you is also coming in for me. And it blows my mind, because the more I do it, I'm like, I don't know anything. I do not know anything, and I am okay with that. But I am really excited about sitting down and channeling this information that I have no idea. I cannot even pretend that I am a master of any of it, because every time I have a session with somebody, it's like oh yeah. Oh, well, look at it this way, or 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 this is what's happened. It's like, okay. And it's so, I love it too, because like today I had a session with somebody and I can see in my channeled sessions, I'm always like asking at the same time. And so for this person, they were saying she's a portal. Like how she holds space is different than how her partner holds space, because they do retreats together. And so she holds space like this. And so that's why she can feel a lot of the energies where her partner just is like this, like, and if she can feel it, she's like, yeah, not now. Yeah, not now. But her partner is like this. And so they were reminding this particular person that they're really a portal for the energy, for any like shadowy energy to transmute. And so she can see it and she feels it, but then it has to be seen and witnessed, and then it transmutes. So she's really just a space holder and a portal, but her energy is soft, yet it's powerful. She doesn't need to speak too much, but but her energy is like holding the space. And then the visual that they had was, sitting in stillness more, like meditating in stillness, not guided meditations, not music, no, not nothing, stillness. And then feeling this channel. And then from the shoulders, it went out. And I was like, and they were cueing it. And I wanted to be like in the heart. And they're like, not the heart, girl, get out the way. Like, we're not going to the heart. We're telling you it's this way. So then later I'm asking like, oh, how come this part wasn't included in this energy like container? They were saying, visualize yourself as a container. And they were saying, well, because this and this gets to rest. That if she just sets the container this way and she sits in stillness and she allows the energy to be that way, then really the energy is going to do what it does. She's not managing, she's not micromanaging, she's not doing, she's not thinking. She just gets to actually be in the center of the container, and the energy gets to be in its wisdom. And so I think a lot, and now I'm babbling, but also the calling of the surrender aspect to whatever it is, to gifts, to life, to astral, to earth, to whatever. And knowing like if we can allow ourselves to integrate fully, which I think is what the work is, into the energy, and always be a student and an admirer of the energy, whether it's shadow or light or joy or pain or whatever it is, but to allow it to be witnessed, then I think also that is where the fun is, because you're remembering that you're a part of it all. And then, yeah, I don't know. It's cool stuff.
So cool.
Did any of that make sense?
All of it made sense. To your point about like what you were seeing, but you're like, well, what about the heart and the head and all, like because I work with chakras a lot too, energy centers in the body in my work. And, we learn in yoga training, there's like this chakra is this color, this chakra is this color, this is, and they're in a linear order. And like, I've seen like that on this person, the heart chakra is not green or whatever.
Mine aren't either. Mine are flipped.
Yeah. And so like, it's just, I'm always like, I'm so in my human, I am probably not as open, but in my work channeling and like with spirit, I'm open, tell me everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to learn. Whereas like in my human, I'm like, I read about that. That's not true. So
yeah,
it's
also these things that I, as a human part of me, where I get triggered by it, like, and I have a total judgment about it. Like last week, somebody was saying something, a friend, and I was like, do you hear my channel about it? Because this actually triggers me and I want to know. And then a whole truth of like, oh, no. This is the way it really is. It was about kids now. And they're like, they're actually just coming in and they're actually more potent. They're more powerful. They just have really more expansive energies. And so here I am in my day-to-day life, and I have such a judgment about it. And then when I channel, it's like, oh, yeah, this is actually the truth of it. And it all comes back to love. But anyway, do you have any final words for just today? I hope to do this again because I'm learning so much from you.
Final words are just, I'm hearing, don't take it so seriously. That's what I'm hearing. Don't take it too seriously. Step into your light. That's what I got. Don't take it too seriously.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have any words for me?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being you. I think I gravitate to healers like you and myself. I think it was you that one time that said it's not a spiritual costume.
Yes.
And I think that's the other part of like when we step into these things, that it doesn't have to look a certain way. We don't have to dress differently or whatever, that it all is about the full embodiment of yourself and how you express yourself and how you show up and how you look and how you share your gifts. And I'm really grateful that I found you, because you're gorgeous, but you don't wear a spiritual costume. You're very much very human and very honest in the human experience, and incredibly powerful in your transformative gifts that you offer other people. And it feels really incredible to be on the receiving side of your love and your truth and your energy, and even more to be in your orbit as a friend. So I'm really, really grateful to have you as a friend.
But everything you said, I could say back to you, because I feel that way about you. I've known you for several years, but you and I have become friends over the last couple of years and worked together in this realm. And you have just been so pivotal for me and my journey. And my embodiment is actually my word of the year. So I have a word of the year practice, and embodiment is actually my word. So you've been very pivotal for my embodiment journey. So thank you.
Yay, see? On Monday nights, I have Energy Club. And so we just do this on Zoom. But what always just keeps on coming up is that we literally are just mirroring parts of truth to each other. And even if we trigger each other, that's a mirrored reflection as well. So thanks for being a part of my matrix story. Thanks for showing.
You channeled a session for me once, and you said that we were like, this is what I remember from it, is before we incarnated in this life, like we were like kind of like looking down over like the world, and we're like, all right, you ready for this? Like, and here we are, like we're doing it. We're like, our paths are different, but we're kind of like together on our paths, like moving forward. So it's fun.
I love that. I love that. Okay. I would love to do this again, because I would love to talk about the other side that you started to touch upon, about where the planet is and what's happening. So if you're down for another segment.
I am. Yeah, because what I'm seeing a lot is that, I mean, I see this almost daily. It looks like a bulldozer just moving through the planet right now.
I would love to talk about that, because that's what I've been getting in readings, but I've never actually broadcasted it out. But I feel like people's heads are about to spin. And for those that can understand what's happening and anchor in to truth and love and community, you'll understand what's happening, I guess, a little bit more. And
Let's do it.
Cool. Sweet. Thank you so much, my friend. Yes. I have to do a shout out to Kimmy, who suggested this. So Kimmy, this is all because of you too. So we're all influencing one another, and that's it.
Yeah. Thanks, Kimmy.
All right. Well, I can't wait to talk again.
All right. Let's do it.
Okay. Have a good rest of your day. What am I going to do? I'm going to stop the recording. Okay. Bye, everybody.